Welcome back to another My Friggin movie review. Today, I'm going to be talking about movies that I saw in 2023. Now, at the beginning of the year, I decided to create these videos of my movie reviews, and my goal was to review every single 2023 movie that I saw in theater. Now, if we want to break down specifics, I saw well over 100 movies in 2023. However, not all of those were in theater. In fact, I'd say most of them were on some sort of streaming service. But if you've been following along my channel, you've been able to see all the reviews that I've been doing from the beginning of 2023 until now. It's been fun, it's been interesting, and there's been a lot of growth along the way. I think I started with Ant-Man and I was doing kind of a handheld recording and trying to capture all of my thoughts in one take. But eventually I moved on to a tripod, having it record me, and you've probably noticed some of the editing that's been there. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Sometimes it's hard to tell. So my review show has been growing and changing, and I think for 2024 I may have some changes going forward as well. But let's not dive too far into the future yet. What I wanted to do with today's episode is recap some of the highlights of 2023. Now, most people that know me will probably guess that I would have a ton of Marvel and DC movies at the top of my list. I mean, you can kind of see in the background, I got Marvel stuff, I got DC stuff, I got all kinds of nerd stuff. And while that might have been true to a point, I actually was surprised with how few of the Marvel and DC movies actually made my top 10 list. To be honest, actually only one movie even made my top 20. So it was definitely a surprising year for myself, but nonetheless, I had a blast checking out a lot of new things that I wasn't exactly expecting at the beginning of 2023. And actually the beginning of 2023 had some surprising movies right off the bat that I didn't expect to like but ended up enjoying more than I thought. And that of course would include Knock at the Cabin and Cocaine Bear. Now Knock at the Cabin I saw streaming so I didn't have a review of that, but Dave Bautista really did a great job with his acting skills, and it was a very intriguing Shyamalan story. Whereas Cocaine Bear was almost the opposite, where it's completely ridiculous, but it was so much fun and I found myself laughing. Some surprising standouts that weren't even on my radar included The Killers, a great assassin thriller to kind of really get in the head of the assassin and see what they're thinking, as well as the Hindi take on the Archie series called The Archies. I have a soft spot in my heart for Hindi films, and I enjoyed the songs in that one so much, and being kind of transported to that old-timey Archie vibe was so much fun. And even military dramas like The Covenant. I'm kind of a sucker for military films, so that was kind of in my wheelhouse. There were of course some returning franchises that I had some excitement for, but wasn't ready to get exactly what we ended up getting, and that would include Creed 3, with amazing acting performances and storytelling that was unique and done extremely well and was engaging. Moving along, of course, the action-packed Transformers movie with amazing graphics and actually an interesting story, which pulled me back into the franchise after being out of it since pretty much the first one. And I found myself being a huge fan of the latest Hunger Games film. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes did a great job of pulling me back into that franchise and kind of revitalizing that spark and made me want to actually learn more, so I hope they make more of those. This year seemed to also include a lot of based on true story films, and many of them captured my attention, even making in my top 10 list. Some standouts include Flamin' Hot, which really turned up the heat on not only comedy but also really intriguing story, and Tetris. Both of those films had stories that I was not expecting and don't even seem to be real. If I didn't know they were based on a true story, I would think it would be completely made up. I found Blackberry, the story of how the Blackberry was made, to be incredibly interesting. And Gran Turismo. I mean, when I first saw that trailer, I thought that was gonna be junk. I had no desire to see it, happened to catch a special screening, and the theater experience was amazing. People were laughing, crying, cheering, almost dancing in their seats. Ended up being a really fun story, and again, one of those elements where it seems unreal, but it is also a true story. So 2023 was a great year for based on a true story films. Some other standouts that I need to tell you about are more of those kind of Oscar-worthy type of films. You know, the slower paced, more personal, interactive, kind of thought-evoking films that I saw. Poor Things, for example, I saw and it was incredibly bonkers. It was weird. I walked out of that movie thinking, do I hate this movie or did I really like this movie? But what was interesting about it is the discourse that I had with my friends after seeing it. And that continuing conversation is really what made it interesting as we were breaking down that experience, and that part made it worth talking about. Other ones, like Past Lives, had a very introspective view of, how relationships work and distance and time, and it was absolutely amazing. The Holdovers was another one that really stood out to me, specifically in the acting category. And with really having a small cast kind of locked in an area together, they all each got moments to shine. Apple TV Plus really caught me off guard with Flora and Son. Now again, this is a more smaller film where it's really focusing on a mother and her son and their relationship. They sprinkle in a little Joseph Gordon-Levitt for you, but it just brought so much emotion to me, and by the end of it I had tears and I was happy, and I think everyone should check that one out. And probably at the top of my list for all the movies that were nominated for Oscars is American Fiction. Jeffrey Wright is outstanding. The rest of the cast is phenomenal. You get a little bit of everything. There's comedy, there's drama, it's fun, it's sad. It has everything. Not necessarily in my top 10, but a movie that did get me thinking as well was the movie Sound of Freedom. Now this film does come with some controversy, but there was this really interesting buy a ticket for someone else promo that they did, and really got it to blow up and be seen by a lot. As a film itself, I found it very interesting. It talks about a very difficult topic, but was a good movie overall. Of course, the action genre stands out as well. I'm a fan of Guy Ritchie, so I ended up enjoying Operation Fortune with Jason Statham a lot more than I originally thought I would. And of course, we can't forget Tom Cruise and his Mission Impossible franchise bringing us Dead Reckoning Part 1. Well, now the Part 1 has been axed, so it's just Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Meh. Say what you will about that dude, but his action sequences are amazing. Crazy stunts, awesome fun action, intriguing spy story. I couldn't get enough of it. It's one of the few movies I saw in theaters twice. Sci-fi, of course, made big impacts this year, and some of those standouts for me were Guardians of the Galaxy. While it doesn't quite make the top of my list this year, Guardians of the Galaxy holds a special place in my heart. The first one was one of my all-time favorite movies, and the third one was also pretty outstanding. What does make it a little different is it's more sad than we are used to, and not so much of that fun and games that the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 gave us before. Those elements are still there, but this one takes it a little deeper and really pulls at those heartstrings. But amazing sci-fi nonetheless. Talking about amazing sci-fi, a big surprise was The Creator. I think one of the most surprising things about this film is the budget. I can't believe they had such amazing graphics with such a low budget. We're used to seeing things like this year's The Flash, which had like 250 some million or whatever budget, but then the graphics kind of came out not so good. But then you look at The Creator and you see this smaller budget film, less than 100 million, where the graphics were superb. And into the fantasy sci-fi realm, we have Dungeons and Dragons. That was a movie tailor-made for me. Admittedly, the trailer did not sell me. I really almost didn't even want to see it. Again, kind of accidentally got an advanced screening for it, and it cracked me up. It is hilarious. It is so much fun, and it doesn't rely on D&D knowledge. So if you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out. Sticking in that sci-fi realm, I had another big surprise that landed in my favorites this year, and that was Godzilla -1. I am not historically a Godzilla fan. Godzilla's cool and all, but it's not really my thing. The big thing for me was the characters. They did an excellent job of expanding each of the characters involved, giving us this really nice story that just happens to take place in a world where you have this giant monster coming in and wreaking havoc. And to wrap up this whole movies that I really enjoyed, I'm going to talk about the ones that pull at the nostalgia strings. And that's going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and of course Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Both Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man hold a special place in my heart. I love both of those franchises, and I've loved them since I was a little kid. Both of them include unique animation styles, amazing music choices, excellent voice acting, superb directing, and are just a ton of fun. I mean, what more can you ask for? On the Spider-Man side, you get the amazing story of Miles Morales and all the people that are important to him, but also they sprinkle in a million other Spider-Mans, so you can hopefully find one to be your favorite. On the Ninja Turtle side, you have the 4 classics, my favorite's Leonardo of course, and sprinkling in even more mutants and other characters so they get highlighted too, so maybe you could find a new favorite. At the end of the day, both these animation films are powerhouses in the animation world. So in closing, those are the movies that really stood out to me this year. Now you'll notice I didn't necessarily do a ranking. That's not what this is about. I just wanted to highlight some of my favorite films. So if you're looking for something to watch that you missed in 2023, you can look through this and find some of those that stood out and go check them out. As always, you're gonna see if I'm friggin' right or I'm friggin' wrong. And then follow up with letting me know. I mean, that's the important part. You gotta be like, yo bro, you're freaking wrong about that. That movie totally sucked. Or, hey, that was a really fun one. You should have had it this one. But if you wanna see which ones made my top 10 list and see which one starts at 10 and goes all the way to that #1 spot, well, you're gonna have to tune in to our special podcast that is coming soon from Red Dragons Radio. It will, of course, be on the Am I Still on the Air spin-off episode of the weekly podcast, Am I on the Air? And that will be with DX.Mega, who of course runs the weekly show, Am I on the Air, where you can get all your entertainment news. Along with peeps over at the People's Forum, who does various movie reviews and TV show reviews and that kind of thing on his podcast. So stay tuned for more information on when that's gonna drop, and then you can see which ones made my top 10 list and which one made #1. Okay, so I just wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about 2024. And really, I'm not exactly sure what's coming at this time. I've been debating about whether or not to continue with these kind of movie reviews or to change it up. I have a few different ideas, so there might be a little bit of a delay before I get these shows going on a consistent basis, if I even decide to continue going forward. So I'm gonna ask a favor of you. If you've enjoyed watching my friggin' movie reviews through 2023, then go ahead and shoot me a message, DM or comment, and let me know if you think I should continue into 2024. Now, it may not be exactly the same format, it might be something slightly different. I'm playing around with some different ideas, but I would like to know if you'd like me to friggin' continue or if you'd like me to friggin' stop. Either way, I appreciate the feedback, and I just want to thank you for joining me on my 2023 movie watching journey.